Oh, it's bright in here. Hello, hello, and welcome to the news that didn't make the news. There is some news that's big news that did make the news, but I'm wondering if that news is not news to distract us from maybe the underground news. So welcome, 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 and happy Saturday to the news that didn't make the news. The news that did make the news was that there is, or they're saying there is, who knows how long they've actually known about this. Hello, Renee. But they were saying just last week, bear with me, I'm trying to get out of this crazy blinding sun. It's not really working. But they found an underground city as wide as the Florida Keys, around the Florida Keys. So we'll start with the news that did make the news. This video is mostly going to be impromptu. I think I could probably make about 30 videos on the Saturnian matrix being unplugged. You guys probably don't want to hear 30 videos on the same thing. But like when the matrix was turned off, this just keeps uncoiling or unwiring or unwinding itself into a greater and greater and greater expansion of what is actually going on. So in the first video, let's see if I can get out of this. In the first video, I had talked about whatever positivity you had been putting out into the universe for a really long time, and the things that you were working on, manifesting, and all of that were coming to fruition at a really sped up trajectory now, because there is no electric fence to hold humanity in place any longer. Okay. Really struggling with the light here today. Sorry. Sorry, guys. So what I had talked about in the first video was all this wonderful, amazing energy, all the things that you've been working on, all the things that you've been working to manifest that we're moving at a slower pace. We're going to be catapulted into the direction that you have been pushing your energy, your manifestation, and your personal power in that direction. And that was going to catapult and come back to you very, very quickly. Within every video I made since that initial video, there have been more and more things that have come out about this Saturnian matrix. The second thing that I realized was it wasn't just the positive energy and the new direction that you were going into. It's also obviously everybody's direction and everybody's momentum working together simultaneously. Now, there's so many incredible parts and pieces to this. And one of those is what I saw probably about 3 or 4 weeks after making that initial video. Excuse me, I can't handle this sun here. Okay. So sorry. All right, and just one more. Okay. So sorry. Okay, much better. Much less blinded by the light. It's been just an absolute whirlwind of change in my life in the last 3 weeks. So my concept of time is even less than my normal concept of time. But so what I come to, I guess, recognize is the word, is a couple different things. I initially explained to you the way that makes most sense to me, and that it was like a tug of war between the Saturnian matrix of control, or the electric fence around planet Earth, and what the people actually wished or desired for their new direction, or even the return to the things that we simply love, like our freedom and our ability to choose exactly what we want to do in every moment. A couple weeks into this, some things really hit home for me. And when I say home, I really do mean home. Um, so, this rubber band of energy between the opposing factor and us. And we know, I can hear people out there in the collective saying, but we've been talking about this and we already know everything's already happened and blah, blah, blah. Yes, we do. And yes, we have. But that's like saying you don't need a sportscaster for a football game, right? Because you absolutely do, because not everybody understands, not everybody's paying attention at the same time. But no matter what it is, the fact that we know this is a movie doesn't make any different. That doesn't mean that we want to skip through scene 3, act 4, just because it's a movie. So, what I'm saying to you is there are some incredibly important things playing out. And even if it already has all happened, which it has, we are now energetically, we've moved through it, but now we're physically moving through the things we know. And it's confusing. And so many people have woken up in a short amount of time that I think it's really important um, to keep talking about these kinds of things, because people have been really having a hard time. I've never seen people have such a hard time driving, texting, communicating, working together, cooperating, even sharing the road, whatever. It's been very, very interesting. And I'm not saying that it's all negative, it's positive, it's negative, it's neutral. There's a whole ton going on. But as I described it before, this rubber band that was wound and wound and wound and wound was two things. It's your conditioned self versus your actual true self. And then the Saturnian matrix or electric fence and your actual true self, and how those two things work together. Okay. So we all know that we're programmed. We all know that we are micromanaged by planetary forces that we will leave unmentioned. So, your programmed self versus your authentic or true self or soul self are two separate things. Now, even if we never had a matrix, even if we never had an electric fence or any kind of crazy little messages running through the grid like 1984, and just know I haven't read or seen that, but I get the basic gist of it. That's what's been going on here forever. And I always make this analogy to the fan so that people get, so it's easy, I guess, to understand. But when you sleep with the fan all summer long, a lot of people have a real difficulty then turning that fan off right in the winter, because the electric hum, the sound of it, whatever it is, not only have they gotten used to it mentally, the body has gotten used to the stimulation from the simulation at a very physical level. So turning off that grid, and I knew this, I talked about this back in 2018, that when they turned off that grid, it was going to be like people going through withdrawal of not having a fan. But as you can imagine, we're talking about a global level, not just your particular personal fan in one room. And so this is huge. Your conditioned self has been conditioned by indoctrinated education system. You have been conditioned by your family. You have been conditioned by your culture. You have been conditioned by many, many, many things. at a very, very young age. And so it is the conditioning or conditioned self versus the true self or the soul self. So to backtrack, even if there had never been a matrix, never been a control panel, never been information and messages running through that grid to you to tell you what to think and how to feel and what to believe, you would still have some of that from family, from culture, from education. Now, what you may not know is that the Saturnian matrix that is no longer was running an electric fence not only as a barrier to keep people from experiencing energetically or even physically other dimensions, it is also set there as a disturbance on an energetic level. So if you think about semantics, when they keep increasing the frequency, the sand on the plate keeps scattering and forming new patterns over and over and over again. And the higher you turn that frequency, the more beautiful, more magical, more elaborate sacred geometry you get. So essentially, you can think of the world as that same plate, right? But they're not turning it up as in a good vibration. Um, these things were all designed to work together. So you have an electric vibration, if you will, that affects your organs, your central nervous system, and everything on a physical level because that electric fence was vibrating your body. Now, the vibration of your body from the control matrix was also tying into how you experience emotionality, how you experience spirituality, what your journey is, all those things. As we know, this has been a hindrance. So even without that electric fence that is no longer, you would still have many conditioned responses, emotions, and things like that stored in your body. So, what they were initially doing, besides running messages through the grid about what they wanted you to do or believe or how they wanted you to feel, they are also running a frequency that by some is audible. I know animals can hear it for sure, and I know people can hear it. Some people can hear it as well. So that frequency was not only working with the pre-indoctrinated programming that you already experienced growing up, it is also affecting you on a physical level. So if you think about how they do experiments in semantics with turning that frequency up and up and up until it becomes more intricate and more sacred shape of geometry and a higher frequency, they, with their electric field or electric fence, were turning the frequency down so that they could do the exact opposite, so that they could actually, wow, so that they actually could deconstruct what is already a higher vibration in people and most of humanity. And the more the vibration on the planet and within the body started to rise since the planet ascended in 2012, and we are ascending along with her if we choose to. The higher that frequency got in physicality or in physical 3D reality, the more they essentially turned down the plate, or we'll look at the plate like the Earth's ley lines. So the higher the frequency the Earth became, the higher frequency you became, the more they turned the plate or the grids down to a lower frequency. Now, sometimes, you'll walk into a store and there'll be like really bad music or some really low grade sounds. There are some sounds that are just really super low vibe that affect you immediately. Most of them are pretty much the same for everybody. There are a couple of sounds that are that I just can't take it all. And one of them is when they're using a jackhammer on concrete. Now that affects your nervous system when you're passing that noise. I don't, they should do studies on people who do road work with that kind of equipment, because I can bet you that there will be like neurological disorders and all kinds of things like that. Um, but there are certain low frequency sounds like the jackhammer, which is not intentional, that just disturb your field and lower your frequency. No matter how high your frequency is, you're in a physical body, so you're still going to be um, affected by the frequency that they were running through the grid. Now, the thing is, you have to realize when you turn a fan off, it doesn't go off immediately, right? It spins for maybe a minute or 30 seconds or something. But when we look at when we're looking engineerically, like at a fan and the size of the fan and like the ampage or the voltage of a fan compared to what they are running, which I'm not going to pretend I know what the voltage of that is. But what I'm saying is, even when it's turned off, I don't know how long it would take for it to actually be all the way gone. So you're baking cookies, you turn the oven off, and if you're smart in the winter, you open the door because even though it's off, you know it's going to continue to kick out heat for about 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes actually, if you have an electric stove. So I'm making that comparison so you'll understand. You won't wake up one morning and go, woohoo, the matrix is turned off. Though I did have that experience, it has to leave everything on the planet. You know, think about these big, beautiful trees and their amazing root system that goes planet wide. Think about the water and the water that pretty much runs planet wide, because I believe the water portion of Earth is probably closer to 90%. Not 70% or whatever they're saying it is. So even if you're not seeing the water, that water is running under mountains, under houses, under tectonic plates. It's all very connected. Everything was being stimulated by this electric program. So everything will take time to detox. I hope that there's somebody here. I'm not sure what's going on. It says there's nobody here. And I got a comment from Renee, but nobody else. So I'm going to assume it's working and plug along. So, okay, good. So with the grid system, with the water, with the tree roots, with everything is going to have to release the reverberation that was coming from that extreme amount of electricity. And I know everyone likes to stay connected 24/7 these days, but when we have solar storms or when we have really big catalytic events, energetic events, such as this being shut down, it's important to you to realize that you're detoxing. And some of you may have even noticed that it almost seems like you're having withdrawal. Now, if you don't have any bad habits and you feel like you have withdrawal, you probably just think, it's your imagination or something, that this is not really happening, but it is happening. And I always use the fan analogy because we get used to the vibration, we get used to the sound, we get used to the hum, we get used to the feeling of it, actually all the way down to a cellular level. It's amazing. And again, it takes you probably about a week once you're no longer running that fan to completely let that release from your system. So this rubber band, this tug of war that I explained as the great letting go, did let go, but it will, and it is taking time to dissipate. Now, what I had talked about initially was the fact that the good energy, well, positive, negative, neutral, doesn't matter. Whatever energy you've been putting out for a really long time is now boomeranging back to you at a very sped up trajectory. right now. So again, that's everything. Now, what I didn't realize initially and what I realized a week ago, and if my life hadn't totally changed, I would have been on here probably and told you about this a week ago because it's so incredibly significant. I'm seeing it everywhere with everyone, in all ways, from speech to attitude to everything. So let's say between the matrix and your true self, where there is that tug of war, no, I have personal power. I'm going to do what Tina wants to do. And then there's this other message running parallel to me, this electric message. So we have that. And then we have the indoctrination, how I was raised, where I went to school, my ethnicity, my background, my culture, all of that running. Okay. So your conditioned self versus your true self was not only you versus the electric fence, it is actually everything that has ever been you. Okay, so say you had a really negative experience in your life, a traumatic experience. If you did if you let it go, if you let it go in the way that you feel like, okay, I've forgiven it, I've let it go, but it hasn't been released at a cellular level. Now it's going to be different for everybody because some people may talk and talk and talk and talk and talk about their trauma and their drama, but they might not ever release it. And some people might release it, but never ever speak about it. And the reason I'm saying this is to you is because within that rubber band that went from the matrix to your true self or your soul, or that rubber band that went just even within your own reality, everything that is stored. Okay, so we just keep storing stuff and storing stuff, and how I saw it was this rubber band just started stretching out. So it's not just the positive and negative energy that I've put out into the universe, to people around me, to sentient life coming back to me. It's also everything that I've ever experienced that I haven't completely dealt with. It's the things that I've experienced but not verbally expressed. It's the secrets that we hold. It's everything. So imagine yourself with a rubber band, or just kind of having a tug of war with a rope, even between your conditioned self and your true self or soul self. So we've got our rubber band here, right? And we have traumatic things that have happened to us in that rubber band. We have good things that have happened to us in that rubber band. So what I'm saying is this whole timeline, your own personal timeline that you've lived since you've been here, is holding on to certain things. And when this stretched and stretched and stretched and that electric fence was turned off, bam, the rubber band snaps and comes back. And initially, I did say the energy that you put out was going to boomerang back, but it's more than just the energy you put out. So let's say I'm carrying around this big, incredible secret that I haven't shared with anyone. Or let's say I'm holding on to a traumatic experience. I forgave the person, but I didn't forgive myself for getting involved in it. Everything that's ever happened to you, and of course, and it depends on your own healing process. It's a journey for sure. But maybe even something, not maybe, definitely even things all the way back to your childhood that you have not either physically expressed or verbally expressed or dealt with in some way are going to be coming up. Now, because we've been so much more in the process of ascension for the last 10 years than we were when we were 5 years old, most of you guys are in your 50s like me, it's mostly going to be more recent stuff, but that is going to very much depend on you and what your process has been of releasing things from you. So within that rubber band is what you have experienced, but it's also not just what you have experienced in a singular form, it's what you've experienced with your family. And if you keep ordering the same family over and over again, which I know I have for a couple of thousands of years, I've had the same exact family members. That rubber band will also be anything within that rubber band will be anything at a cellular level that you've held on to. So I could say, oh, that's my family, and this is something that happened 5 years ago, but in reality, it could also include and incorporate and be intensified by very similar situations that have happened with those family members in the past. So the matrix turns off. It's amazing. It's wonderful. It's beautiful news. However, because there was electric interference with your authentic self versus your conditioned self, when it came back, everything is coming out. So, and that could even be like, I'm absolutely in love with my neighbor. I can't wait till he asks me out. It doesn't matter what it is. It could be childhood trauma from when you're 5 years old. Whatever you're trying to hold on to, not expose to the world, to yourself, to your friends and your family, is going to come up. And that's going to be, as you can imagine, that's going to be everything. That's going to be addictions, it's going to be physical problems, it's going to be mental problems, it's going to be things that have held you up on your spiritual journey, or even on your physical journey. Now, I'm not saying this to be negative, because if you have been going through something physically difficult, like an illness or a disease or something like that, because you guys know I've dealt with illness for the last 2 years, when it snaps, that is also the chance for you to release anything at a cellular level that was keeping you stuck or keeping you sick. So I don't want you to think it's one polarity or the other. Like everything else, it's an absolute mixed bag here. So whatever you're holding on to at a cellular level that you haven't processed is going to be processed. Now, how long this is going to go on or how long this is going to take you really depends on you, whether you know what's going on and whether you know how to deal with that. Um, for instance, let's say there's something within your family, immediate family dynamics that you have wanted to discuss, or you've wanted to bring up, or you've wanted to talk about for a couple years, but you wanted to release it, but it's an uncomfortable thing and you didn't want to do it. Well, that is going to come up. So if you allow that to come up and say, hey, I'm going to call, whoever it is, and I'm going to, in the most positive way I can, talk about this, how it's affected me, and how I need to let it go, and have a conversation with that other person. As soon as you recognize that they're all the individual things that are going to come up for everybody. So again, it's just going to be whatever you have held onto. Okay. And now it makes so much incredible sense why they held off for so long on allowing or inviting. And I'm not sure what the right word is, because we have the technology within this planet and within the alliance. This could have been done decades ago, but why did they not allow it to happen decades ago? Now, I'm not saying it's all outside of us, because as we always know, we are a huge component in when things happen, and we're a huge component in how things happen. But what I'm saying is, have been powerful for a very long time, and there are thousands and hundreds of thousands of amazing people working on planetary liberation. So why not 3 years ago, right? Why not pre-COVID? You have to ask yourself this. And I think the reason is, or the answer for that is, you there is really divine orchestration of timing here for so many things. And a lot of times I realize, even myself, that people don't want to hear about divine timing. Um, but it's almost like it was intentionally held to the climax or the absolute apex of, I don't know what word I should use. So the world stage and our individual ascension process, both, um, we're already hitting a crescendo. Okay. These last couple months have been just wild. So while we're at the crescendo, that's when it got shut down. Now, why would they do that at the crescendo? Think about it. If we were, say they did it 4 years ago and we were down here and we hadn't all realized, what happens when they turn it off? Well, we're kind of right here and might go right here. But the way I'm seeing it right now is like we're up here and they turned it off, and it's like we go whoo up and then back down into the rubber band of everything that we have not processed at a cellular level. I hope this is making sense, because I don't know any other way to describe it to you. So your conditioned self versus your true self, your healing versus your illness, all of it together is one incredible gift. It's one incredible package at this time to unpack. So when we feel urged to express ourselves about things, to anyone that we've never expressed before, the more we are able to be our true self or soul self and not our conditioned self, that's the faster that we let go of that matrix. Okay. So the matrix is not there. As I said, the Saturnian electric fence was turned off weeks ago, but I just don't know how long it's going to take people to process this. Hi, Queen Star. How you doing? So it's going to be an individual process. Now, if you decide, you know what, I'm in love with my neighbor and I'm just never going to say anything, I'm going to hold it with me forever and ever and ever, it's going to come out. Something's going to happen and that's going to come out. So the reason why I'm saying this to you is it's incredibly important to realize, okay, it's gone, it's turned off. It's like the fan, it's not off yet, like I said. Oh, Anjali, I always say your name wrong. So, your willingness to participate, your willingness to cooperate, but more importantly, your willingness to accept the invitation when the rubber band snapped to fix all the things or pick up all the pieces, tell the neighbor that you're in love with them, tell your mom that, you don't like what she did when you were 12 years old or whatever. Because the sooner you do that, the faster you do that, you have to clear it at a cellular level. Just because the matrix is turned off, just because the rubber band broke, does not mean that you're automatically free from it. Because, like everything else on this journey, you have to do your work. But it's really simple. It's so, so simple. Something's bothering you, say something. You love someone, say something. Someone hurt your feelings, say something. You had a grudge since third grade, say something. Because now that rubber band snapped, the fastest way for you to let go of the electric fence within the cellular system is by you to be your true self, not your conditioned self. Now, in conditioning, some of us have some pretty crazy, crazy conditioning. I've met a lot of people from South America that just, for some reason, South America seems to really push out some, in my opinion, very strange and unhealthy conditioned responses, especially in men. And I'm not going to say what those were or what those are because it's not important. But conditioning can even be religious, like I said, cultural, indoctrinated religion, indoctrinated education, all of that. But on top of that, it's even more than that. Okay. Let me give you an example when I say, like, your conditioned self versus your true self. Your true self might go to Walmart or some super gigantic shopping place, you know, at dark or in the middle of the night. Maybe you like to shop when no one else is in there. I don't know. But this is a perfect, simple, very easy example of a conditioned self. So say I'm going to Walmart at or some giant super center type of store like that at 2 a.m. in the morning. It's dark, and my first thought is probably going to be, because I love to walk so much, I'm going to park in the absolute back of the parking lot and get my walk in because I didn't walk today, or I didn't walk enough today, or I really still enjoy walking today. And immediately my brain will say, single women by themselves shouldn't walk in the dark, right? That immediately comes up. And that's what I mean. It can even be something so simple as such as, females shouldn't walk around by themselves at night in the dark. But we do that all the time. All the time, our conditioned self is in a struggle is not the right word, but kind of it is a struggle. Our conditioned self versus our true soul self, or our true self versus our conditioned self. So the fastest way through this on a cellular level is if you've decided at 2 o'clock in the morning in the Walmart parking lot that you need to walk another 2 blocks for the day, park in the back lot. And your brain says, nope, women shouldn't walk alone in the dark, say, and just do it. That breaking the conditioned response. So what I'm saying is the effect we have on a personal level and also on a global level depends on how fast we can switch over to the true self or soul self and let the conditioned response. We'll probably always hear the conditioned response. I'll probably always hear you shouldn't walk at night by yourself, because that has been said to me. I've probably walked 1,000,000 miles in my lifetime, and I'm not exaggerating. And that the amount of times I've been told as a female I shouldn't walk in the dark, even if I'm being my true self, even if the electric fence is gone, I might hear that for the rest of my life. I might hear that for the next 5 years. And so I'm not saying to you that you can override your conditioned response with your brain and say, have a struggle or argument with the brain. I'm just saying what you do is when that conditioned response comes up, no, I'm a female, I shouldn't walk in the dark. You just do it anyway. You do it based on your intuition. So I would stop. I would say, okay, no, I would stop for a second and then just use my intuition. Nah, I'm totally fine. I'm going to walk in the dark like I always do. So there is an override process for the conditioned self versus your true self or soul self. In other words, your true self or your soul self would just walk around doing and saying and loving, and whatever it is that is authentically you would just be coming out your mouth. Okay. And coming off of your energy field as well, more importantly. So how long it takes everyone to jump on the timeline of the Saturnian matrix shutdown depends a lot on the first wave and how the first wave responds. Because as the first wave, everything affects us first. That's why I always call it the first wave. And I know other people talk about waves, and when I talk about that, I'm not referring to other people's work. I'm just always saying it as in the group that follows this channel is on the first energetic wave, meaning the first energetic and physical experience of earth change, of ascension, of all of that. So if we know that our job right now, and I really see this for the first wave probably going up until about December of 2023. So till about December of 2023, we'll be doing a milder scale internal tug of war between our conditioned self versus our true self. Like I said previously, it makes it a lot easier now that that electric fence is turned off, but we still physically have been programmed as well. The matrix, the electric field of the matrix was actually intended to work with all the other kinds of indoctrinations that we have. And if you haven't had enough and don't need a reason to eat healthy, that is the reason for GMO foods as well, because GMO foods work very differently with the electronic manipulation than other foods. Now, I'm not saying that you won't notice the matrix is gone if you eat a large pizza every once in a while, or eating junk food. I'm talking about the way we live mainly or most of the time here. Okay, so your body knows what to do with junk, with crap, with occasional whatever. It knows exactly what to do with that. So to really allow yourself to override with your soul the conditioned response. And it's going to be so much incredibly easier now that this electric fence or this electric nemesis is actually gone. It's going to be incredibly easy. But the thing is, with a lack of knowledge always comes a lack of understanding, meaning if you don't know it was on in the first place, you just know that something is different or you feel like you're missing something, it's going to be a little bit of a challenge. Now, for people who have prior had addiction problems, addiction dependencies, who are now sober or clean, whichever the case, you may feel a much stronger urge to drink or to use or to whatever. And I'm not saying this is everybody, but there's going to be a slight urge to do that. Okay. And the other thing is, the way in which we are processing no longer the stimuli that was there for however old you are. Think about it. Okay. I'm 51. Wait, no, I think I'm 52. So I've been experiencing that stimulation, that electronic manipulation for 52 years again. So it's a slow process. But now that we are free and clear of that, we take care of ourselves like we normally have been. Whenever you want to clear yourself out at a cellular level, when you want to detox, your detox from alcohol, your detox from food, whatever you're detoxing for, it's really doesn't make that much of a difference. Detox is pretty much always going to be the same way. People have their preferences how to detox, so it doesn't matter. The most important thing is moving your body, expressing your emotionality, and drinking water. And there are a lot of other things that can help you, but those are the most important things that come to me off the top of my head. Because your conditioned response and because your conditioned response has been there for a while, there are not really, I mean, the majority of the people watching this channel are between 40 and 70. Okay, so we've all been going through this a long time. It's not like someone who has only experienced this for 6 years, right? So the children, I'm sure if you have young children, my son is almost 30, so I don't, but if you have young children, you're probably going to notice your kids acting very different. You might think they're acting ADD or they're hyper or whatever, but think about it. If they're really young and have only had this electric charge in their system for 2, 3, 6 years, the younger they are, the less electric charge, the quicker they're going to snap back out of this. So you may see a significant change. I would like to say your children, but let's be honest, for most of us, it's probably going to be your grandchildren. Yes, me and my son have had a running bet. My son told me when I dropped him off at his dad's when he was, I believe he was 16, but he might have been 17. And I quote, "Mom, I'm going to get married before you." And I said, "Over my dead body." And this is so funny to me. He was here making cookies with me, him and his girlfriend, who planned on getting married last year, but it hasn't happened yet. So I still have a shot, right? So we're rolling out Christmas cookies, and he looks at me and he goes, "How are your prospects coming along?" And I'm like, "My prospects for what? We've made like 900 cookies." And he goes, "No, Mom. I mean, when I told you I was getting married before you said over my dead body, and I'm wondering how your prospects are going because Katie and I are thinking about getting married in the spring." So anyway, my son is hilarious. He might be holding out that there's hope for me. After all, maybe he's just trying to be sweet because he's the sweetest kid ever. So the younger your children are, the younger your grandchildren are, the quicker you're going to see them snap out of this. Now, depending on how you feel about what's going on in the cellular level is how it's going to affect you at a cellular level. If you've been someone struggling with illness, disease, addiction, okay, and this snaps back, initially, I'm so glad I did this video today because I'm just so glad. Let me leave it at that. Addiction, um, physical pain, injuries, illness, disease, any of that, when that snaps back, there might be the urge to drink, there might be the urge to use. But within a person who's had illness or physical injury, say you had a knee injury from sports, that's turned off. Initially, it's going to hurt worse. It's going to feel like it's re-injured. Okay, if you're a person that's gone through major illness in the last couple years and you're almost through it, like me. Maybe you just got through it. Maybe you're working right now on healing yourself. You are going to feel a little bit like there's a pause, or so don't let your brain run away with you and tell yourself that you can't do this, that you can't heal yourself, that you didn't come here to do this because you did. But that is a lot of incredible energy that's been pent up within our nervous system because of this charge and because of our age and how long we've been exposed to this charge. That's why I was saying younger people, the younger they are, the quicker they're going to snap back out of this and they're going to detox. But again, injury, illness, addiction. You may, with addiction, you may be tempted. But even if you don't feel tempted, you may feel like something's missing, like you did when you first stopped drinking. I hope that makes sense. Okay. So when you first stopped drinking, okay, and you became a sober person, maybe you've been a sober person for 20 years. But initially, so now it's not as big of a deal as it was the first day you quit, right? Or the first week or the first month. Those things get easier and easier and easier with time. So, but it may feel like you may have this feeling like something is missing or something is difficult, like you did when you first stopped doing something. And that could be anything. I'm not saying this is just about alcoholism. Any kind of addiction, any kind of dependency or codependency issue. Okay, let's say you're in a codependent relationship and you've been building up courage to regain your independence and take back your power and your personal sovereignty, and you're doing a beautiful job, might add, because I can feel you doing it. Um, but you may have felt in the last couple weeks like a codependent again, or codependent tendencies. And the only reason that I'm explaining this to you this way is it's going to feel like, with injuries, with addictions, with illness, with disease, it's going to feel like a temporary setback, but it's not. Okay. So the most important thing about this, and the only reason I'm explaining this as a temporary setback, is it's hypercritical of what you tell yourself in that moment, right? So when, if you are, if you are someone that is recovered from alcohol for 20 years, for example, and it comes to your mind, because it is a shock to the system to lose this electric charge, you guys. It affects us more, I think, than people really realize. So let's say you think, oh, I could have a drink, just one drink, right? That would be your conditioned self versus your true self. Your true self knows alcohol is not your friend, and you can't and you shouldn't, and you've been, clean and sober for 20 years. But the thought will come because it's being released. Even if you physically released that dependency or that addiction 20 years ago, at a cellular level, we hold those things in. That's why some people have addictive personalities and some people don't. Okay. So whatever it is that you're going through, whatever it is that you've experienced that you may feel is a temporary relapse, and that could be anything from your own personal independence, your personal power, your personal courage, your addictions, your codependencies, for whatever. And I don't think this is going to be an overwhelming thing, but I'm seeing it and feeling it come up. Okay. And I'm not saying that if you are experiencing something like that right now, that it's going to be till the end of December before you let go of it. What I was saying about the end of December is this whole process of humanity winning the tug of war against the electric fence is catapulting everything at a cellular level, emotionally, physically, spiritually, everything, even etherically, that needs to be released. I hope this is making sense. So if you went through this 2 weeks ago and you're like, oh, I'm tempted to drink again, or oh, I'm tempted to call that ex who's, I know I'm codependent on, even though he's a jerk, whatever it is, that came up because this was turned off. And it really could come to you as a passing thought, in one ear, out the other. It could stay for a couple weeks. But I don't see it on the first wave really being much more than that. And again, how you and I on this first wave process this dictates how the rest of humanity processes this. And I absolutely love it when people say, well, how long is this, going to take? How long is this going to take? It depends on you. On the first wave, you recognize, hey, I really want to say this to this person. I really want to express this. I really want to do this. Do it, and you release it. So what I meant by taking up until December was we're on the first wave, and it was probably first and second to all the way to the third wave is going to take to December. All of humanity, all of sentient life will have let go of it. Now, when it comes to other forms of sentient life, like plants, as soon as something stops, it goes detoxification. It's probably 48 hours and it's out of their system. It is our monkey mind that hangs on to it that takes the detoxification process longer to acclimate to and longer to see the changes. Now, the only thing that you could do that would be a hindrance to yourself is know that there are things that you need to speak, things that you need to change in your life. Of course, courses that you're on that need to be corrected. And the tug of war has been won by humanity. We have our freedom, and you're still not doing it. You are going to be not only slowing yourself down, you're going to be slowing everyone else down as well. I know it's hard. It's been incredibly hard. These last 4 weeks have been incredibly difficult. There have been so many days that I sat on the fence and said, should I be the peacemaker? Should I be the negotiator? Should I say this as sweetly as possible, which is what I always try to do, or should I just blurt out how I really feel? It's been a very, very fine line, but those things need to come out. And the most important reason for you to know this right now is because let's say you were a person that experienced a disease or an illness in the last couple years. And you made it through that, or you're almost through it, or you're in the process of healing it right now, like me. When that snaps back, when you feel temporarily like you're worse, or you're sick again, or you're having some sort of relapse, it's incredibly important what you tell yourself. And the most important thing about this, and the reason I'm explaining it so thoroughly, is what you say to yourself. If all of a sudden you say to yourself, oh, wow, I'm sick again, or I'm not really healed, or Western medicine didn't work, I feel like I'm whatever, you get the point. So it's going to be, again, every single thing is going to be your conditioned self versus your true self or your soul self. So you feel like crap, right? You feel your old sports injuries. You can say to yourself, oh, wow, my sports injuries are back. Well, that sucks. I guess I'll have to have surgery again, or do whatever I did the first time. Or I guess I'm going to have to figure another healing process out for that thing. Okay. Or you could tell yourself, and this is what I suggest, this is my body's detoxification. I am in the healing process. This detoxification is just speeding up my process, and temporarily I don't feel good. It's like when you're sick to your stomach and you finally throw up. It's not fun, but you feel better. And so turning off this Saturnian matrix, this electric fence that's been running for, I don't even know how long, you guys, it's been running, will bring a temporary relapse of anything and everything that you've experienced as a hardship. So that could be anything, as you know. Just want to say it one more time. Very, very, very incredibly important what you tell yourself at this time. So important. And there's nothing more important than that, is you staying in the process and on the journey of healing yourself, and not say, oh, I must be sick again. Oh, I probably need surgery again, or I need to go to the hospital again. No. Again, your cells are listening to everything you're saying. Your cells they are working around the clock to detoxify from this electricity and these messages that have been running through this planet probably thousands of years, could be millions of years. I don't really know. It doesn't matter. The thing is, I may feel this way today, but it's just my body clearing. It's just my body detoxifying. You guys know this, but your thoughts and your imagination create your reality. And if you sometimes imagine things, not just for the reason of clearing out a cellular level, for what we're talking about, but for anything, if you find yourself getting caught up in that, what is this? I don't feel that good right now. Just remember, like I said, everybody is going through the detoxification. And why I talked about codependent relationships, or alcohol, or using drugs, or injuries or illness, is just so that you understand that everybody is covered in this. Okay, everybody has some of those things, or a multitude of those things. You get the point. But I didn't want to say, oh, this only pertains to illness. If you feel sick again, you're just detox. It pertains to all of it. It pertains to your physical, etherical, spiritual, emotional, every body that you have, this pertains to. That electric interference was very, very strong, and it's very, very rooted in us at a cellular level. That's why the younger people who have been on this planet less time will snap back in that rubber band or that tug of war a whole lot faster. So it's not an emergency. Okay, so don't act like a road crew in your own life, throwing up orange cones all over the place, how you talk to yourself is vital. And when I say throwing up like orange cones all over the place, right? Are you throwing up orange cones like roadblocks for yourself on your personal path of destiny? When we release something, it's important not to change our self-talk or attitude just because one day we feel like drinking or one day we feel like calling our ex or whatever it is, okay? Everything has a season and a reason, I suppose. And wow, once again, I'm over an hour. I want to talk briefly about, I say briefly, that's a joke, right? I want to talk briefly about timeline jumping. Okay. A lot of times, and I don't follow it anymore, but I followed it for years, just like everyone else. It's just another phase of ascension we go through. So never, ever, ever criticize anybody for what they're doing. The thing is, we just shouldn't stay stuck in what we're doing. But there are certain things that we all do that are part of the ascension process. And there's been a lot of people that have written about and made videos about timeline jumps and quantum leaps for humanity. And yeah. That's wonderful. That's great. And like I said, I did used to read those myself. Okay. What I want you to understand about that again is we have to just keep going back to the conditioned self versus the true self, because in this case it's the outside world versus our personal self and our personal space. So when you see someone making a video or writing articles about timeline shifts, it's because they feel the energy of a literal shift in timeline. Like I'm saying, there's going to be a big collective shift in December because all of us will have gone through this electronic detox by December-ish of the end of this year. Okay. Timeline jump. You can have a personal timeline jump anytime you choose to. Now, the people writing about them and making videos, they're talking about collective timeline jumps. But there's a lot of things that I see missing. And there's a couple things. One is, let's say you read that there was a large timeline jump a year ago and you knew nothing about it, and you're not on it or whatever, thoughts may be running through the monkey mind, as it always happens to us, right? There was a timeline shift and I wasn't part of that timeline shift, even though I'm aware about it. The thing is, here's your timeline. So unprofessional. Here's your timeline, right? Just because everybody went up the timeline last September and I didn't, right? I wasn't at the place to do it. That doesn't mean the timeline goes away. The timeline's always there. So if I'm over here, over there, it doesn't matter. Anytime that I decide to and change my vibration and my mental state, I can go right to that timeline. Okay. So that timeline is there. There's a timeline shifts for us personally. There's timeline shifts collectively. And that's why I'm so encouraging you right now to know that I'm sure so many people, I mean, I've heard about the whole matrix scenario for such a long time, and so many people for the last, I would say at least 7 or 8 years. We're like, wow, and this thing gets turned off and everything is going to go back to normal. No, it's going to go back to better than normal. It's going to go back to incredible. It's going to go back to freedom and sovereignty and divine love, everlasting on this planet. But we absolutely have to let the stuff go that was wound up in our own personal tug of war, our own personal timeline. Okay. And you can shift and change timelines anytime. Just because there was a timeline in 2012, even, right? There is no time, only here. So within the Akashic record, you can hop on the Akashic record and take a ride and go anywhere you want, anytime you want. You've never, ever, ever missed out on anything. And your pets and your family and people that don't understand anything that comes out of your mouth, that doesn't mean that 6 months from now they won't understand, or a couple years from now, and they can hop on that timeline too. This whole thing about, oh, well, you didn't, do this thing by this certain time. No, because our monkey mind on the 3D planet is the only place where time exists, right? And if the timeline is connected directly to the Akashic, which the time is not a line, it's a circle. We can go anywhere we want, anytime we want, any way we want. It's very important for us to know that when I feel sick today, or I feel codependent today, or I feel whatever, trauma, anything that's coming up, because and it's incredible because there's so many things that I'm seeing that I didn't even know before I got on here to make this video. But so the electricity running to the nervous system was actually keeping your cells from releasing stuff. So your own body fighting the electric fence, having a tug of war with the matrix, was keeping your cells, what's the word? Suppressed? Repressed? Maybe both. Okay. So something traumatic happened to you. There are things that you're holding on to at a cellular level. Yes, it's gone. That makes it so much easier. I know that sometimes other people are really hard on us, or we can be really hard on ourselves, but what we have to realize is if there is an electric current that was stopping something from coming up or coming out, that's been released. So it's going to. I know people have always talked about do the work, do the work, do the work. And yes, you have to do the work, right? But there are things in our physical reality that we play into that, right? So you can imagine it. This sounds horrible. I just went triple Scorpio on you. What I was going to say sounds horrible. It sounds like an Italian mafia movie, but I'm going to say it anyway. What I was going to say is, if someone drops you in the water to scuba dive and they they tie a brick to your leg, you're stuck down there, right? And so turning off the electric fence would be like you being at the bottom of the ocean, and all of a sudden someone cuts the rope and lets the brick off. You're just going to shoot like a rocket up to the surface of the water. And that's what's happening in your body. And that's why you want to tell people things that make you angry, or tell people things that make you joyous, or tell people things that make you excited, whatever it is for you. The brick, the mafia has cut the brick off of your leg. The matrix has been turned off, and everything is rising to the surface. Now, if you think it's a fun little party and you can control whether it rises to the surface, and you're trying to control your emotionality, it's absolutely, it's not a great idea. Let's start with that, but it's just not going to work. Okay. That is not in there, because the biggest proponent to this matrix in the conditioned self versus the true self was, it was playing a song that made you want to. The matrix was playing a vibration, playing a soundtrack to our lives that wanted to keep us not even just at a certain vibration, not even just trapped, but keeping the old stuff from past lives, trapped as well. That's being released. If you've been in any kind of situation, and I've been talking about this for probably 2 years, the more things that get released in physical reality that let our cellular level detoxify and cleanse out our physical, spiritual, emotional, and etherical bodies, the lighter we become and the more things that come up. It's just not going to, you're just not going to be able to hold it down any longer. So, for example, if you're now, when I say control your life, I don't mean take care of your life. Going on a walk is not controlling myself. That's giving myself exercise. Making myself special food is not trying to control myself. It's taking care of myself. Interesting. So, what I'm saying to you is if you're trying to control what's going on in your life, it's going to be an epic fail right now. Now, what I mean is, like, say you're in a job that you absolutely hate, right? And this rubber band has snapped, and your true self or soul self is now overriding the conditioned self. I must live in this house. I must stay married. I must work at this corporate job that I hate when all I want to do is play my guitar. Whatever it is for you, and this has been coming up. Like I said, I've been talking about this on and off for 2 years. There's nothing to stop you from catapulting yourself into the life of your absolute dreams. It's like you're standing on the shore, you're waiting for the sun to rise, you've already made the decision, and you're just about to go. The whole world, everything you've ever wanted to achieve, every success you've ever wanted. And when I say success, I'm not talking about money. I'm not talking about your status. I'm not talking about your bank account. I'm talking true happiness, true achievement, and true success is your soul self or true self winning out over the conditioned self. And again, we may hear the conditioned self for 6 months, 5 years, the rest of our lives. But right now, I just keep throwing stuff on the floor. Man, everything has changed so much. I don't know if you can tell from me or not, but yes. So, anyway, if you are taking care of yourself, thank you and congratulations. If you're trying to control yourself, if you're trying to make yourself stay at a job you hate, if you're trying to do anything that's not in alignment with you, if you're trying to do anything that's not in course correction with you, if you're trying to do anything that is not this amazing destiny before you came in here, you're throwing up little orange cones all over your own personal road on your personal journey, on your personal destiny to greatness and the highest version of yourself. So just don't do it. Yes, don't do it. We always get gifts in life. The universe is always providing us with things when we need them. And sometimes we love that temporary gift. When the universe delivers a gift, it doesn't say, hey, Tina, this is a temporary gift. This gift's only going to last 10 minutes. This gift's only going to last 3 months. This gift's only going to last 2 years. Universe doesn't tell you that. Universe gives you what you need when you need it. When you absolutely need it. Now, the thing is, sometimes we love that person, place, or thing. Sometimes we're attached to that person, place, or thing that was a temporary gift. And we just have to look at things that are a gift as a gift and not say, why didn't this relationship or this person or this job or this car or whatever make it for the long haul? Because when the universe gives you a gift, you don't know what the timestamp is, and you don't know what the expiration date is. There are many, many short-lived gifts in this lifetime. And there just are. Now, I'll tell you, the neighbor upstairs in apartment number 4 moved in here, I want to say, like 4 or 5 weeks before I was supposed to have surgery, when I had no one else and she was temporarily not working, and she could come down here and put my pants on me every morning and do my laundry and vacuum my floors. Yeah, I couldn't do anything after open surgery. That was the universe giving me a gift. I mean, she moved in and she started taking care of me. And actually, started taking care of me before surgery because I needed it. And, you know, my family is not real close and I can rely on them every once in a while, but I needed someone here every morning to get my clothes on and um, stuff like that. The universe knew what I needed, the universe delivered the gift. The universe always sends us exactly what we need when we need it. And I know it's hard, but we have to not ask why this person, place, or thing didn't make it for the long haul. Because you never know the expiration date on your gift. And we just have to be grateful um, for the gifts that we have. This is a time of great prophetic, what is the word? Prophetic contractual agreements. Okay. So if you're running around, as I said, throwing up, you know, orange cones on your own personal road of destiny, there are many, many amazing things that you signed up for. And you don't know these things because someone tells you, because your higher self or spirit guides or whoever or your neighbors tell you these things. The only way you'll know a contractual soul to soul agreement is by how you feel and that other person's presence. And these contracts, these prophetic contracts, have already started to be fulfilled. And that is what is going on. And that is why it's so important. Instead of just saying, hey, the matrix is turned off, do your happy dance, we're done with 3D. I want you to know how it affects your body so that you know that you're not alone in this, that the whole first wave is in this, that the whole first wave's experience affects how everybody else is going to experience this in the coming months. I don't see the first wave going through it for more than 1 to 3 months. That's probably being lenient. But if I know I love you, I need to tell you. If I know I have a problem with something you did, something you said, something that happened to me even 20 years ago, I need to speak up because that's what I meant by controlling your life. If you're trying to control your emotionality, if you're trying to keep yourself in something that is a personal roadblock to your destiny, to this contractual destiny that you signed up for. And so the faster we let our true self or soul self override the indoctrination and the conditioning of our culture, of our parents, of our families, of our education, of all of it, the sooner we let that go and invite the soul self to speak at a truth level. And I know this is difficult. It's been very, very difficult to speak about things. It's easy to just tell someone you love them, but I was using that as an example. That is really not how, that is not what has been coming up for me. It's been heavy things, serious things. And so it's hard sometimes to figure out how to say it or how to present it or how to talk about something, especially if it's because what is coming up is what's being released at a cellular level from past lives and from my 52 years. It's probably not going to be me needing to tell the neighbor that I'm mad that you know, ate half my pizza on Friday night, right? So we have to go about it in a probably more cautious way, like what is really bothering me, what's the situation, and what is the nicest way, the most positive way that I can express this thing, no matter what that thing is. Because it's not the short term, really not much short term stuff that is coming up. It's mostly going to be everything systematically that has been within you for the long haul. And we know we repeat our lessons, and we know we repeat the souls that just keep coming back into our life over and over and over again. Until we do it not the way that's wrong, not the way that's right, not the way that pleases other people, we do it the way that feels the most joyous. That's it. It's so simple. Your contract, more than anything, was with self to be in joy. There just happened to be other people that liked you a whole lot and wanted to sign your contract, and they wanted to be a part of your group, your soul group, your family. Okay. And you guys are very much, very much, very much my family. And I love you. And thank you for being here. Until next time, bye.